there's something called inner scoreboard. That if you've had success in life, maybe professionally, maybe socially, you're a beautiful woman and you have confidence. It's an inner scoreboard that you have confidence in social situations. Maybe you're a very funny guy. You're very confident around people because you've had success your whole life. Maybe it's professional success, whatever it is. The inner scoreboard. A lot of people flex their outer scoreboard. I am great. But people with an inner scoreboard don't have to tell you that. And that's the Lakers. To give you an understanding of the Lakers-Clippers relationship in Los Angeles, we all know the Lakers have 17 titles and the Clippers have never made a conference championship series. The Lakers' all-time leading scorers when they were in L.A., Kobe to Jerry West to Kareem to Elgin to Magic to James Worthy to Shaq. The Clippers' all-time leading scorer is Randy Smith. It is different, and there is a confidence about the Lakers walking into any series with the Clippers, especially a playoff series. They've won so many. In Los Angeles, it's not just the Lakers are the big brother and the Clippers are the little brother. It's not just 17 titles to 0 finals. It is the way in which the Lakers see themselves in the world. And a prime example of that was the last week. Last night, the Clippers lost to the worst team in the NBA. Oklahoma City, before last night, had played 24 games, and they were 1-23. And the Clippers lost to them because the Clippers tanked. The Clippers did not want to win. And when it was close late, you knew they'd lose anyway because nobody's worse late this year than the Clippers. And by the way, they lost to Houston before that, the second worst NBA team. Why would the Clippers do that? Because the Clippers are so terrified of facing the Lakers being on their side of the bracket that they tanked to Houston and Oklahoma City. So now the Clippers will face Dallas. Allergic to defense, the Clippers should win that series. Defense tends to matter a lot in the playoffs. After that, they would face Utah, a team I think the Clippers actually match up very well. Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, they don't have an athletic wing to stop either. But what did the Lakers do in the last week or so? The Lakers have been hobbled all year. AD can't stay healthy. Dennis Schroeder was out, COVID protocol. LeBron James nagging high ankle sprain. And what did the Lakers do? They finally got healthy about 10 days ago. They won 5 straight games, and when asked about the playoffs, LeBron said, I don't care who we play. I don't care where we're seated. I'm not even going to be 100%. Ready to go, baby. Bring them on. And that is the difference between the Clippers and the Lakers. LeBron James in his 18th year and his running mate, AD, who's brittle, have been hobbled all year in this condensed season. And they're like, yeah, we're healthy. We won 5 straight. Bring on the Nets. Bring on the Bucks. Bring on the Sixers. Bring on the Warriors. Bring on bring the whole league all ready to go. The Clippers, who have been healthier and better all year, are terrified. So we'll tank to Oklahoma City and we'll tank to Houston. Now, I know what you're saying. Colin. That's because they're resting. Really? You think the Clippers can rest after melting down last year, Joy and I as witnesses in the bubble, having no chemistry, and oh, by the way, this year, being the worst good team in the NBA in clutch points. They should take time off? LeBron and AD won the title last year. They wanted to get games in late. And the Clippers are like, nah, we got it all figured out. No, you don't. No, you're terrified of the Lakers. You see this all the time in UFC. You see like 2 female combatants, 2 guys walking in. Boy, yeah, both look confident. It's going to be a war. And after about 2 minutes first round, one of them's going forward and one of them's going backward, right? Everybody looks the part. Everybody talks the part. Everybody markets the part. Everybody promotes the part. The Clippers are terrified of the Lakers, and the old hobbling Lakers are, come on, bro, let's go. If they met in an octagon, the Lakers would be moving forward and the Clippers would be backpedaling. Got to respect that. Got to respect the Lakers. Falling apart. We don't care where we're seated. Let's go. All right, so I want to talk about Steph Curry for a second. Maybe you've heard of him. Steph Curry, certainly there's an argument to be made. He is the MVP. There's certainly an argument to be made. I would give it to Chris Paul, but just because I do think the regular season matters, and the Suns have had a glorious regular season. And the Suns' history has been, in 11 years before this, a mess. But every little boy and little girl, and I count myself on this at one point when I was about 6, 7 years old, I had a little hoop down the driveway. Every little boy and girl who picks up a basketball, the first thing they want to do is put the ball in the hoop. They don't work on their ball handling. They don't get into a defensive position. It's not about passing the ball to your neighbor. You grab the ball and you shoot it. That's what you want to do, right? You want to hear the swish. All the best basketball players in the world, the top 50, they're all scorers. Steph Curry is the greatest shooter of a basketball in the history of the world. That act of grabbing and shooting a ball, he's the best ever in the history of the world. If he played Michael Jordan in horse, he would have HORSE, and Michael would be putting on his second sock. The greatest player couldn't compete with him. He's the best shooter of all time. We can argue who's better, Federer, Nadal, Djokovic. We can argue MJ LeBron. We can argue Ronaldo Messi, Martina Serena, whatever you want to argue. You cannot argue the greatest shooter in the history of basketball. And it's the thing every little boy and girl want to do when they grab it is shoot, put it in the net. He's the best ever. But it's not just that. And I think this stuff is important. I've said for years and years, the thing that's underrated about the NBA is intelligence. Go look at how successful the bad boy Pistons players were after basketball, like GMs and coaches. And they were those guys were just fighters. No, there was several of them that became coaches and general managers or broadcasters. The Miami Heat, in my opinion, that championship team with LeBron, Wade, Bosh, Battier, was the smartest basketball team I've ever seen. But if you look at Shaq and Kobe's careers post-basketball, I mean, Kobe's winning an Oscar. Shaq is Mr. Business. That being smart and self-awareness and the ability to adapt and play with others is really not a nuance. It's really, really important. In the NBA, now we don't even want players going to college. Go to the G League for an hour, go play. That means players are younger. We're inserting 19-year-old kids from all over the world into the league. They cannot drink at the hotels they stay at. They can't go to the bar in the Ritz-Carlton they stay at. They're kids. In the NFL, you play 3 years minimum. You often redshirt. God, you watch the draft. Some of these guys went to college for 5 years. They're 23 years old. They're married by the time they get to the NFL. They've gone to college. They've dealt with classes, other kids, genders, races, religions. It's a whole different world. But basketball, you're good. You're in the league. Go. So there's a lot of dysfunction. A lot of kids are emotionally overwhelmed. And here is Steph Curry, 2-2-2, 2 MVPs, 2 titles, 2 scoring championships. Only Wilt and Kareem and MJ can say that. But I think what makes Steph Curry, beyond being the best shooter in the history of basketball, and I would argue, certainly arguable, the best ball handler, is that with all the stuff this year that's gone on, the franchise is sort of an injury, transient, underwhelming, uneven mess, and he got him into the playoffs. Now think of how good Bradley Beal and Westbrook are. They'll both make the Hall of Fame. In the East, we're not sure. They have play-in games. They may not make the playoffs. In the East, Steph has a chance to get these Warriors in the West, and it has been, they are the smallest team. Their top draft pick got hurt. Klay Thompson got hurt. Kevin Durant left a couple years ago. It's his ability to function without drama in a league that is a fire hose nonstop of dysfunction and drama and kids asking to play a man's game. And here's Steph Curry, this Warriors season. Think about this. When Steph Curry played this year, the Warriors were a top 10 offense. When Steph Curry was not on the floor this year, it was the worst NBA offense in 5 years. What? Maturity, self-awareness, intelligence. Maybe we should credit his father. He grew up around NBA games. But Golden State has been a noisy operation. Some of it their fault, some not for the last 2 years. And here they are, with a chance to do something in the postseason in the Western Conference. And it comes down to this guy. He can't win without KD. Already has. Can't win without Clay. Boom. He won't win the MVP. Certainly you could vote him in. It wouldn't be embarrassing. LeBron said yesterday, that's the guy. Look what he's dealt with. But I marvel at his story, his maturity, his self-awareness. For all the doubters, and for some weird reason, there's been a lot of them, this year is as great a year as Steph Curry has ever had. They're simply not functional enough and not talented enough to do anything in the postseason. But the fact they have a puncher's chance speaks volumes of Steph Curry. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.